Smritimigandhasya Vakaya Chakshomilitam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Narayana Parayana Charahankaranashana Rupanugamita Prema Prayojanayate Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bol Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Anmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Narayana Parayana Jarahankara Nashana Rupa Nugamitra Prema Purajanaya Te Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaye Prayatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayanittinamane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ittinamane Namo Bhaktivinodaya Sachidanandanamane Gaura Shakti Sarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapara Kamalam Shri Guram Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganodagnata Vitam Tvam sajivam swadvaitam savadutam prahijana sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Saha Ganalalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha Namo Mahavradanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratasve Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopishwar Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suta Devi Prananami Hari Priye Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vrindai Tulasi Dhyai Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavate Namo Namaha Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhabeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So opening with a few invocations for auspiciousness, offering my heartfelt obeisances to the lotus feet of my spiritual master and our entire illustrious Sri Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Parampara, to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself, to Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to Rasakshekar Sri Krishna, to Srimati Radharani, to Tulsi Devi, and to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So, welcome to the first class, the introductory class to our series on Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's magnum opus, Sri Jaiva Dharma. Now, just a very brief introduction to who is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he's a previous acharya, realized spiritual preceptor in our lineage. And he has written a vast array of books, somewhere around 100 books in multiple different languages. During the day, he used to work as a magistrate. And in the evening time, he was very much engaged in spreading spiritual teachings and helping people develop their Krishna consciousness. He was a very extraordinary personality, and we will explore more of his life history as we continue this course. Would anyone else like to share anything about Bhaktivinoda Thakur? He's also been described as the Sapta Goswami, the seventh Goswami.
That he sent a great, perfect example of a householder who was also a saint, and how to live as a pure devotee, having great worldly responsibilities.
The Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is really valuable for us in this age because they're his writings, because he took the Vedas were hugely vast, and even though Krishna took them and put them into Bhagavad Gita as the essence of them, even that for us in this age is too much for us to cope with. And so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur very kindly took all the things from the Vedas and all the teachings from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and made them really, really simple for us in the modern age. Even though he lived 100 years ago, it's still very, very relevant. And he was writing at the time not just for his contemporaries in India, but for the English Raj. He wrote a lot in English as well, which was sent, and he sent some of his work to universities in Canada and places like that. So when you read the works of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, even though it's really, really intellectual, he puts it in very simple language for us to understand. And his compassion is just dripping from the pages, his love for his readers. Jaiva Dharma is one of my very, very favorite books for that reason. So welcome, Arun and Kohia.
Yes, welcome. Yes, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the first acharya in our line to reconcile and address the philosophical problems of modern times and present the solutions found in the Vedic literatures to a modern audience. So he was well versed in Western philosophy, and he was the first acharya to alleviate and extinguish the doubts of the modern mind. So he was a great genius. He was very broad-hearted, and personally, very much I resonate with the teachings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and how he has presented very profound philosophy in a very poetic and accessible way. He is truly a genius. And in this course of Jaiva Dharma, we will cover many profound points of deep philosophy, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur has presented this work in a way somewhat like a novel. So it's very accessible to the reader, and it's a dialogue of question and answers. So we see this in many spiritual teachings. It's a dialogue of spiritual questions and answers between the teacher and the disciple. So to begin the class, at the start of Jaiva Dharma, chapter 1, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has presented a very nice pastime and given us a very poetic form of trance induction to draw us into the fold of Sri Jaiva Dharma. So if you have a copy of Jaiva Dharma in front of you, we're turning to chapter 1, entitled The Eternal and Temporary Dharma of the Jiva. So just set aside your thinking mind for a moment, set aside your ego, and hear the nectarian words of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So within this world, there's an island of Jambudweep, and it is the most excellent island. And within Jambudweep, there is the tract of land known as Bharatvarsha. This is the former name of India before the British came to India. And this tract of land extended a lot vaster than the current geographical limitations of modern India. So in this place of Bharatvarsha, there is a topmost place called Golda Bhumi or Golda Desh. And within Golda Bhumi, there are 9 islands. And this area of 9 islands is called Sri Navadweep Mandala. And one island, one area within the Sri Navadweep Mandala, on the eastern bank of the Bhagavati River, there's a very, very beautiful settlement called Sri Godruma. And it's eternally situated in the eternal Sri Navadweep Dham. So in ancient times, many great practitioners and learned scholars, they actually lived in Sri Navadweep Dham and Godruma Dweep. And in Godruma Dweep, there's a place called Surabi Kunj. And very close by Surabi Kunj, there's a place called Pradyumna Kunj. And within Pradyumna Kunj, there's one realized babaji called Prem Paramahamsa Babaji. And he is a Siksha disciple of Pradyumna Brahmachari, who was a very close associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so Premdas Babaji, he lived in one kutia, one very small hut that was covered in vines and dense foliage. And he spent his time secluded within this hut in very deep rapture and very deep communion with the divine. And Premdas Babaji, he was a very refined scholar. He knew many, many scriptures, and he had taken the shelter of Sri Godruma Dweep with a single-minded conviction, with ekagrata chitta, one-pointed concentration, knowing it, this Godruma Dweep, to be non-different to Nandagram and Sri Vrindavan Dham. So as a daily routine, Paramahamsa Das Babaji, he used to chant 200,000 names and offer 200,000 names on his mala, on his rosary of tulsi beads, and he used to offer hundreds of obeisances, prostrations to many great Vaishnavas. So this used to take up a lot of time. So that's why he didn't chant 300,000 names, because he was giving so much pranams to Vaishnavas. And he maintained his existence by begging alms from nearby cowherd men. And whenever he found a spare moment in his schedule, he would spend his time not engaged in idle gossip, talking here and there about this other person, other people. He would be immersed in the nectarian teachings of Prem Vivata by Sri Jagananda, who is also a very confidential associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So for those of you who may be wondering who is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is one form of Krishna, one avatar who was around present physically on this earth 500 years ago in Bengal, in this area of Navadvip Dham. And so this pastime is taking place just some time after he had left this world. And so at such times, when Prem Das Babaji was relishing Prem Vivata, many Vaishnavas, they would come and they would come and hear from him. And as Babaji was reading with great devotion, his tears were flowing from his eyes. And Prem Vivata is filled with all the conclusions of rasa, of the very intimate transcendental mellows of the spiritual world. And so the Vaishnavas who would gather around and hear from Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, not only would they experience great joy in seeing him relish this Prem Vivata, but just by hearing his very sweet voice, they would experience the extinguishing of the forest fire of all material pangs, desires, and suffering. So one afternoon, after Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he had completed his rounds that day, the chanting of his mantras, then he sat and he was reading Prem Vivata in a shaded grove, and the plants around him had madhavi flowers, and there was jasmine vines and the fragrance of jasmine flower filling the air. And he was completely in a state of avesh, complete absorption in bhav and transcendental emotions, transcendental ecstasy. And then as he was absorbed in this state of avesh and bhav and very deep internal state of relishment, one sannyasi, one renunciant, he came there and he was observing Prem Das Babaji Maharaj. And just seeing Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, that sannyasi, that renunciant, he gave prostrations on the ground. He fell down like a stick at the lotus feet of Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, and he gave dandavat pranams. But Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he didn't notice him because he was completely absorbed in his internal mood. So then that sannyasi, he stayed there for a very long time while Prem Das Babaji Maharaj was absorbed in samadhi. And then after some time, Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he returned to external consciousness. And as he came out of his internal consciousness and back to the external world, he noticed that there was one sannyasi in front of him giving him prostrations, dandavat pranams. So then, weeping, Babaji said, "Oh Chaitanya, oh Nityananda, please be merciful upon this fallen wretch." Then the sannyasi said to him, "Oh, I am extremely destitute. Please have mercy upon me. Why do you mock me like this?" Because Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he considered himself Tunadapi Sunichana, very, very low position. He had great humility. So to see a sannyasi, someone in the renounced order of life, in front of him, he thought, "Oh, what is this? How can a renunciant be giving pranams to me?" So even though Prem Das Babaji Maharaj was a great personality, he is giving us a very fine example to be more humble than a blade of grass. So then that sannyasi, he started to take the dust from the lotus feet of Premdas Babaji Maharaj and put it upon his head. And Premdas Babaji Maharaj, he offered that sannyasi a seat made of banana bark. And with a choked voice, Premdas Babaji Maharaj, he said, "Oh, Prabhuji, I am your servant. I'm just a worthless person. What service can I offer you?" And then that sannyasi, he set aside his begging bowl, and with folded hands he began to speak. "O Master, I am most unfortunate. I have spent my time in Kashi, Varanasi, and other holy places, debating the conclusions of religious texts, such as Sankhya, Patanjali, Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Purvamimamsa, and Uttamamamsa. So these are the 6 classical schools of Indian philosophy. So Sankhya is the metaphysical school. Patanjali means the Ashtanga yoga system. Nyaya is the school of logic. Vaisheshik is atomic theory. Purvamimamsa is, and Uttamamamsa we can say is cause and effect. So we can see here that for thousands of years, actually, what seems to be rather modern theologies have been prevalent in India for a very long time, such as Vaisheshik, atomic theory, Nyaya, the school of logic, cause and effect. So nothing is new under the sun, and the Vedic corpus of knowledge is profoundly deep and can offer us insights into reality far more profound than what we can find in any aspect of scientific investigation. And we'll hear more about this as we make our way through Jaiva Dharma. So this sannyasi, he continued speaking. "So I was exhaustively studying the Upanishads and other Vedantic sastras, and then about 12 years ago, I accepted the renounced order of life from one Sri Satchidananda Saraswati." So those with the name Saraswati coming in it, they're coming in one order from established by Shankaracharya. So having accepted the staff of the renounced order, I traveled to many holy places all over India, and I kept the company of sannyasis who adhered to the doctrine of Sri Shankaracharya. So Shankaracharya, he was one great personality and great reformer in the land now known as India, and he was around something from 1388 to 1422, around that period. And at that time, Buddhism was actually very prevalent throughout India, and in order to re-establish people's faith in the Vedas, Shankaracharya, this manifestation of Shiva, he drew people back into the Vedic teachings to have faith in the Vedic teachings, but he packaged the teachings in such a way it was very, very similar to Buddhism, so people didn't have to make a huge leap in their understanding of reality. But this was laying a foundation. So although Sannyasi Thakur was very learned, he still felt some emptiness in his heart. So he had gone through the 3 stages of sannyas and then finally come to the 4th stage of Paramahamsa. And at this stage of Paramahamsa, he took a vow to remain in mauna, in silence, for some time. And he was absorbed in what Shankaracharya calls the Mahavakyas, certain aphorisms of the Vedas, such as chief axioms of the Vedas, Aham Brahmasmi, Pragyanam Brahma Tattvamasi, etc. and thinking himself to be one with the supreme reality. And even though he was actually very learned and a very elevated sannyasi, he was not feeling satisfaction in his heart with this conception that the individual self and the supreme self, they are one. This was not giving him nourishment in the heart. So one day, as the sannyasi was in Varanasi, Keshi absorbed in this, he saw one Vaishnav sadhu, and that Vaishnav sadhu was very loudly engaged in Harinam Sankirtan. And hearing the Harinam Sankirtan of the Vaishnav sadhu, the sannyasi, he opened his eyes. And when he opened his eyes, he saw that that Vaishnav sadhu was bathed in tears, relishing chanting of the divine names of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And he was in complete ecstatic rapture, and his ears were standing on end. And he was chanting the names Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadada Shri Vasadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadada Shri Vasadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda. So seeing this Vaishnav sadhu in complete ecstasy, chanting the names of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, as he was singing, his feet would slip and sometimes he would fall to the ground. And by observing this, somehow or other, that sannyasi's heart was filled with an incomparable ecstasy that he had never ever experienced before. So this was some kind of mystical experience for the sannyasi. And it was so overwhelming. It was so touching for the sannyasi. He had never experienced anything like that in his life. So that sannyasi, he really wanted to go running straight to that Vaishnav sadhu. But because he was a Paramahamsa, because he was a respected sannyasi, and because he had taken a vow of mauna, of silence, and mindful of his position in society, he decided, I will just stay here. And so that sannyasi, he is remembering this, and he is sharing this with Paramahansa Das Babaji Maharaj. And he is thinking, alas, alas, fie on my status, fie on my rank. Due to this, I did not go and meet with that Vaishnav sadhu. And then shortly after that, I became completely obsessed with wanting to find that Vaishnav sadhu. When he was sleeping, when he was eating, it was burning like a fire. And he looked here and there all over Keshi, looking for that Vaishnav sadhu, but alas, alas, he did not find him. So then he concluded, after quite some considerable thought, I want to take shelter at the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. So then he left Keshi, he left Varanasi, and he traveled to Sri Vrindavan Dham. And there he met many great Vaishnavas, uttering the names of Sri Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, in mood of great lamentation because they had just left this world. So that the separation was very, very strong. The Brajbasis were feeling from the Goswamis. And so he's met many great Vaishnavas there, and they were absorbed in chanting and remembering the pastimes of Sri Sri Radha, Shama Sundar, and Braja. And then as they were relishing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, sometimes they would shout out the names of Sri Navadvip Dham. So then some desire came in that sannyasi's heart. I want to traveled to Sri Navadvip Dham and I want to take shelter there. So then, after completing the parikrama of the circumambulation of 168 square miles of Sri Vrindavan Dham, Sri Brajamandal, he made his way to Mayapur Dham in Bengal, and then while he was in Mayapur, he met some Vaishnavas and they told him, oh, in Navadvip, in Godrumdvip, there's one great Vaishnav sadhu, Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, and you should go and take shelter at his lotus feet. So hearing this, and by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, now I have arrived at your lotus feet. So Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he looked at that sannyasi and he said to him, oh, you are so fortunate by just seeing that Vaishnav sadhu. You have tasted, just for a moment, you have tasted some rasa, you have had some mercy of Sri Chaitanya Dev. But alas, alas, I am here chanting every day, but I am receiving no mercy. So please, the next time you are experiencing such ecstasy, please remember me and have mercy upon this fallen soul. So after saying this, Prem Das Babaji Maharaj and that sannyasi, they embraced. And as soon as that sannyasi was touched by that embrace of Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he experienced a kind of transcendental ecstasy, an unprecedented bliss manifested within his heart. And he began to dance, and he was weeping tears of joy as he danced. And he was singing the names of Sri Krishna, of Nityananda, and they done kirtan together for a very long time. And then when they stopped, they had a conversation on many topics. And then Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he said very humbly to that Sannyasi Thakur, oh, please, Mahatma, stay here in my kunj for some time, for some days, and purify me. And that sannyasi said, I offer myself at your lotus feet. And why do you only speak of a few days? My anxious prayer is that I want to stay right close to you until I give up my body, till I give up this very life. And although the sannyasi was very learned, he was a great scholar of many sastra, he knew that just by staying in the residence of the guru, very naturally he will receive the guru's instruction. So then he took up residence in that kunja, in that grove, and with great delight. And so he began to serve Prem Das Babaji Maharaj. And after some time, Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he took that sannyasi to meet Pradyumna Brahmachari, his Siksha Guru. And so they went to the village of Sri Devapali on the outskirts of Navadvip Dham. And Pradyumna Brahmachari, he was absorbed in the worship of Sri Nrsingadev. There's one very old Murti of Sri Nrsingadev there. Gurudev has taken us there on Parikrama, so you can still visit that Murti even today. And so they left at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they crossed the Alakananda River, and they arrived in Devapali. Then they crossed over the Surya Tila River, and they took darshan at the lotus feet of Sri Pradyumna Brahmachari. And he was in the Nrsingadev Mandir, and just from afar, Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he offered Dandavat pranams at the lotus feet of his Shiksha Guru, Pradyumna Brahmachari. And then, coming out of the Mandir, Pradyumna Brahmachari saw his Siksha disciple, and after giving respects, they conversed for a while on the topics of bhajan. And then Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he introduced that sannyasi to Pradyumna Brahmachari. And Pradyumna Brahmachari said, "Oh, my dear brother, you have obtained a very qualified guru, and you should study the book Prem Vivata under Prem Das's direction." And that sannyasi, he humbly offered obeisances at his Param Guru, and he said, "Oh, Prabhu, you are an associate of Sri Chaitanya Dev. You can purify hundreds of arrogant sannyasis like me just by your merciful glance. So please bestow your mercy upon me." And he spent some time with Premdas Babaji Maharaj and Pradyumna Brahmachari, and he was observing very carefully how they would interact with one another. And being a Mayavad sannyasi, he was not accustomed to the Vaishnav etiquette and the humility and respect how they engaged with one another. But observing very carefully, he took all this into his heart. So then they returned back to the Kunj in Godrum Dweep, and that sannyasi, he took up the behaviors of a Vaishnava, all the external behaviors, but he was still dressed in externally in sannyasi cloth. And then one morning, after performing his ablutions, at the very break of dawn, Premdas Babaji Maharaj, he sat in the Madhavi Grove and he was chanting Harinam on his Tulsi Mala. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then he became an Avaish, completely absorbed in the Nishanta Leela and the internal pastimes of Sri Sri Radhakrishna. And he was absorbed in Sri Radhakrishna's Yugala Nishanta Leela, the pastimes just prior to dawn. He was absorbed in his internal Sarup, his eternal, perfected spiritual form. And their pastimes began to manifest in Prem Das Babaji's heart. So, because at this time of the morning, Radha and Krishna are about to leave each other's company. So it's a time of great vipralamba, great separation. And they're about to return to their respective homes in Varsana and Nandagan. And Premdas Babaji Maharaj, absorbed in his Siddhadeha, he was feeling great pangs of separation. And tears were flowing from his eyes. And while absorbed in this deep state of samadhi, he lost all external awareness, all awareness of his physical body. And Sannyasi Thakur, he was watching Premdas Babaji Maharaj. And he was watching him with all of his Premdas Babaji absorbed with his ecstatic symptoms. And then suddenly, Premdas Babaji Maharaj, he turned to the sannyasi and he said to him, "Oh, Saki, Kakati, who is Srimati Radhika's parrot, he is making noise, he is making a commotion. Silence him, so the divine couple do not wake. Because if they wake, Lalita Saki will become very distressed and she will rebuke me." Lalita is quite bold, you know. So look there. Ananga Manjari is signaling for you to do this service. You are Ramana Manjari, and this is your designated service. Be attentive in this regard. So here, Premdas Babaji Maharaj, he is revealing in his state of absorption that Sannyasi Thakur's Nitra Sarup, his eternal spiritual form. And this is not coming by mental speculation. It's not coming that that sannyasi paid him some money, but rather by spontaneously, this is coming out of the rapture of Premdas Babaji Maharaj. And then after uttering these words, Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he fell unconscious. So from that moment, that Sannyasi Thakur, he was now acquainted with his spiritual identity and what is his Nitya Seva, his eternal service. And now that he was acquainted with his identity and his service, he engaged himself accordingly, internally. And then the day began to dawn, and the morning light, it spread its rays all over the Gunj, Prajumna Gunj in Sri Godrumadweep. And the morning light, its luster, had some kind of ethereal otherworldliness to it. And the birds began to chirp in a very sweet divine melodies. And a very gentle breeze began to flow, carrying the fragrance of jasmine flowers. An extraordinary beauty completely engulfed the Madhavi Grove of Prajumna Kunj, and it was illuminated by the crimson rays of the rising sun. The beauty was beyond description. And Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he was seated upon a piece of banana bark, and gradually he returned back to external consciousness. And he began to chant Harinam on his beads. And then after some time, Sannyasi Thakur, he again offered obeisances to his Gurudev. And he said, "Oh, Prabhu, this destitute soul wishes to submit a question before you. Kindly reply and pacify my anguished heart. May you be pleased to infuse Brajaras into my heart, which has been scorched by the fire of Brahmagyan, knowledge aimed at impersonal, absolute, devoid of form, qualities, and activities." So because he was a jnani, his spiritual practice was empowered by his intellect. And when our spiritual practice is predominated by the intellect, then the heart becomes contracted and quite hard. And so it was Sannyasi Thakur is likening this to a blazing fire within his heart. And this is the symptom of the jnani, of the impersonalist, because there's no rasa, there's no sambandha can be present in the Brahmavad conception. No personal relationship with the divine, just an extinguishing of everything. So this leaves a great chasm in the longing of the Atma to be in relationship with reality, in relationship with the personality of reality. So up to this point, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has very poetically, in a very simple way, shared a very profound history which actually cuts many misconceptions we may have, many philosophical misunderstandings, and establishes what is the Siddhanta, what is the Guru Tattva, how the Satsishya should interact with his Gurudev. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in a very elegant way, has presented many conclusions of Sri Jaiva Dharma just here up to page number 8. So how genius is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, such a great poet. So I'll just pause here, and if anyone wants to add anything or they have any questions, please go ahead. Okay, so from now we start to get into a bit of Tattva Siddhanta. And
Explain what it means.
Tattva Siddhanta, Tattva translates to thatness. There's no direct English translation, but as the thatness, the essence of a particular subject or topic. And Siddhanta means the philosophical conclusions. So the essence of a topic and the actual conclusion of that topic, tattva siddhanta. And Sannyassi Thakur, he is beginning to inquire now to his Gurudev, Premdas Babaji Maharaj. So Babaji Maharaj, he replies, "You are a fit candidate. Whatever questions you ask, I will answer as far as I'm able." Now, actually, before we get into this, one question may come. This sannyasi, he's a impersonalist, Mayavad sannyasi, and then after a very short time, he has come to bhakti, and already he knows his siddhadeha, his eternal spiritual form. And we may be practicing for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and we are at nowhere near the level of this Mayavad sannyasi. So what is that? How is that coming? So this sannyasi, even before he came to Navadvip, even before he came to Vrindavan, he was a Paramahamsa, and he was completely disidentified with Dehatma Buddhi. He was completely detached from identification with his gross physical body and his mind, intelligence, and ego. So he had completely controlled his mind and his senses. So because he was completely disidentified with his temporary designations, then he was a fit candidate to receive very deep teachings of bhakti. And although we may have been practicing for perhaps many decades, still there can be a great persistence of identifying with our temporary coverings, the mind, the physical body, the ego, the persona. And so Gurudev has made the comment, as long as there is identification with this temporary mind and this temporary body, then it's be very, very difficult for us to really receive transcendental knowledge. So Sannyasi Thakur, he is inquiring now. Prabhu, for a long time I have heard of the preeminence of Dharma. On numerous occasions I have asked the question, what is Dharma? To so many people, and it's a cause of distress to me, because they have all given answers, different answers that contradict one another. So please tell me, what is the true constitutional Dharma of the Jivas, and why do different teachers explain the nature of Dharma in such diverse ways? If Dharma is one, like sometimes we hear the phrase, God is one. So if Dharma is one, why do all learned teachers cultivate that one universal Dharma in different ways if this Dharma is one universal and without a second? So if the essence of religion is one, the question is coming, why is there so much variety in religion and spirituality and modalities? Why is it? It's a very good question. So then Premdas Babaji Maharaj, he closed his eyes and he meditated on the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he began to speak. O most fortunate one, I shall describe to you the principles of Dharma as far as my knowledge allows. So Babaji's continuing here. Gurudev's actually made a very profound point here. So coming just now, there are about 3 or 4 terms in this next section. Gurudev is saying, if you know these terms, if you understand them, they are not complicated. They're actually quite simple to grasp. Then you'll be able to make sense of all the activities of this world and beyond. So just take a moment to digest that. If you can grasp and understand these next 3 or 4 terms, you'll be able to make sense of this entire world and beyond this entire creation. You'll be able to make sense of it all. We haven't even finished page 8 of Jaiva Dharma. So how wonderful is this? So get ready. So the question was, if there's only one true Dharma, why is there so much variety, different teachings, different methodologies, etc., etc.? Babaji Maharaj, he is now giving the answer. An object is called a vastu. This is a Sanskrit term for an object, a vastu. And its eternal nature is known as a nitya dharma. Nature arises from the elementary structure of an object. The Sanskrit term is called gatana. By Krishna's desire, when an object is formed or created, a particular nature is inherent in that structure. As an internal concomitant factor, this nature is the nitya dharma of an object. Or in other words, we see around us so many different objects in this world: fire, water, sugar, salt. Each object has a particular swabhav, a particular nature, a particular dharma that's inherent in that object. And we can say it's unique to that particular object. Now, an example used to help us understand this is if we take carbon, like if you have a pencil, I was meant to get a pencil as a prop, but if you have one pencil, inside the pencil is the lead made of carbon. Now, carbon, the atoms inside carbon, the carbon atoms, are the same inside a diamond. But we can understand there's a difference between the lead in a pencil and a diamond. If you propose to your fiance with a pencil instead of a diamond ring, she won't be so impressed. There's a difference between the two. So the atomic structure of the carbon in a pencil, it's arranged in a hexagonal form, and they're arranged in layers, like layers in a veggie burger. Got the bun, the lettuce, the potato patty, a piece of cheese, another bun on top. So when you draw a pencil upon a page, then because the layers of the carbon atoms are quite loose, then they rub off and you can write your name on a page. But the atoms within a diamond are the same carbon atoms. But because the structure is different, in a diamond, the atomic structure, it's more in a pyramid form, and they're joined in 4 corners, in 4 places, each atom. So therefore, the bond is very strong. Diamond is one of the hardest substances on Earth. So the point here is the carbon atoms in the pencil and the carbon atoms in the diamond are the very same thing. However, due to their structure, due to their gatana, the arrangement, their functions are different. So although all material forms are made of the same Panch Mahabhuts, 5 foundational elements, the arrangement of these elements is different. And because the arrangement of the elements is different, then the swabhav, or the function, becomes different. So Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he continues that the nature of a given object becomes altered or distorted when a change takes place within it, either by force or by circumstance, by nature, by the environment, due to contact with other objects, and with the passage of time, the distorted nature becomes fixed, and that distorted nature then appears to be the permanent nature of that object. So the distorted nature is not the swabhav or the nitya dharma, the eternal nature of that object. It is the acquired nature, and that acquired nature is called nisarga. We'll give some examples soon to help us understand this. The nature which is acquired through long-term association, that term is called nisarga. So this nisarga occupies the place of the factual nature and becomes identified as the swabhav. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving an example here, water. So the natural swabhav and nitya dharma, these can be interchangeable. The swabhav or the nitya dharma of water is liquidity. It's very soft. It's very flowing. But due to some perhaps environmental factor, you take the water to a very cold place, then that water solidifies and it becomes hard, it becomes ice. So then it takes on the acquired nature, it undergoes vikar, transformation. And from vikar, it takes on nisarga, an acquired nature. And then over time, we may think that this acquired nature is the actual swabhav, the eternal function of that object. However, in reality, it's not the eternal nature, because when you take that frozen piece of ice back to a warmer climate, to a suitable environment, then very naturally the swabhav, the inherent internal function, it begins to manifest. So this is the difference between swabhav or nitya dharma, the eternal function, and nisarga, an acquired nature, which is coming from vikar, transformation. So some more examples we can give in terms of nitya dharma or swabhav are fire. The eternal swabhav of fire is to emit light, to give warmth, to give heat. If there is fire, but it has no warmth, it has no heat, then it's not fire. It's maybe some kind of illusion, some kind of show. If there's a white substance and it's very sweet, then it's sugar. If it's very salty, then it's salt. And so this saltiness is an inherent nitya dharma. It's part of the swabhav of salt to be salty. They can't be separated. It's part of the dharma, the swabhav of sugar cane to be sweet. They can't be separated. So these are an eternal concomitant factor. So this is a very important point to understand, and it's not too difficult. So due to some kind of conditioning, environmental factor, etc., some transformation can take place, and then some vikar transformation, and then from this transformation, nisarga, an acquired nature. And over a long time, we may think that acquired nature is the natural state of the object, but actually it's not the natural state, it's an acquired state. So Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he's continuing here. The word vastu, it is derived from the Sanskrit word vas, which means to exist or to dwell. And the verbal root becomes a noun when the suffix tu is added. So therefore vastu, which means that which has existence or which is self-evident. I think we'll just stop here for today before we continue further. But just to recap, so Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, he's sharing here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they're sharing what is every vastu, every object has an eternal function, a swabhav, an inherent nature. It can never be separated from that object. However, it can undergo vikar, transformation, and that eternal swabhav can become covered. It can become checked in manifesting. And just like the water can become ice, we are in a similar position. Our heart has become hard due to forgetfulness of our actual Dharma. And then we have taken on this nisarga, an acquired nature, and we think that our acquired nature is our eternal swabhav, is our eternal constitutional position. Right? So we may think our temporary acquired nature, e.g., this current physical body, I'm male, female, or we may identify with a more subtle covering, the mind, the persona, the ego. These are temporary coverings. They are an asarga, an acquired nature. And due to forgetfulness of our true nitya dharma, we are identifying with our temporary designations. And so this is not just for the human being, but every single vastu, every object on earth and in the entire manifestation has its eternal swabhav, has its eternally existing true nature. So this is just opening the door to Jaiva Dharma, because Jaiva Dharma translates to Jiva Dharma. What is the Jaiva? What is the eternal function of the soul? Because our temporary nisarga, acquired nature, has no relation to our soul. So the question is coming, what actually is our eternal purpose? What's our eternal true nature? This is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur will illuminate in great detail to us. So we'll start to conclude the class for today. So if anyone has any questions, thoughts, doubts, reflections, I want these 4 terms to be very, very clear. So what is the Sanskrit term for an object? Who can say?
You're all unmuted.
Vastu.
Yes, very good, Mohini. Okay, and so Vastu means object. And what is the Sanskrit term for the inherent nature of a Vastu?
Nitya Dharma.
Nitya Dharma. Or what's the other term? Swabhav.
Yeah.
Nitya Dharma or Swabhav. Swa means own and bhav means nature, one's own nature. Swabhav. Swabhav or Nitya Dharma. And that Nitya Dharma can undergo transformation. What is the Sanskrit term for transformation?
Anyone else? Gatan.
Gatan refers to the atomic structure, but the transformation, the Sanskrit term is vikar, vikar. And then from vikar, we take on acquired nature. What is the Sanskrit term for acquired nature? Nisarga. So very important, these 4 terms, vastu, nitya dharma or swabhav, vikar, and nisarga. Everyone's homework is to ingrain these deep into your consciousness, because this is setting the platform for the entire Jaiva Dharma, and you'll be able to relate to many, get profound insights to many philosophical systems, religion, and engage in profound dialogue if you can understand these 4 things. And remember Gurudev is saying, if you can understand these 4 terms, then you'll gain such profound insight. You'll be able to understand this entire world. So many people are in complete confusion. Oh, why is this world like this? What is going on? Blah, 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 blah. You will understand this entire material manifestation by 4 words. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is very merciful. It's only 4. It's not even 5, just 4. So this is your homework for the week. These 4 words. Vastu, Nityadharma or Swabhav, Vikar, and Nisarga. And so try to take these very deeply into your consciousness, because this is laying a very solid platform for the very elevated topics that will come later in Jaiva Dharma. So is anyone not clear on any of these terms? Do we need to give some more example, or there's some confusion? Because in this course, and I'm hoping that I won't be the only speaker. I'm hoping more qualified people will come at some point and also share. That I want to give plenty of time to remove any doubts or confusion on certain terms or certain principles. Yes, we won't be able to understand everything, but there's no rush to make our way through this. And by hearing very methodically Pram Shuddha Shravan Dasha, then we can really enter into this great work of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So please don't be shy. If you have questions, if you have doubts, if you have confusion on a certain topic, we can take the time and really nut it out so everyone we can progress together.
Also, if anyone is wanting an electronic copy of Jaiva Dharma, just get in touch and we can send that through to you.
Or we can put it directly online.
Yeah. We'll,
Haribo.
Haribo.
What was that? The Visarga, did you say, was quiet nature?
Yes, Nisarga is acquired nature, just like the ice is the Nisarga of water, the acquired nature.
Starting with N. So what's the Vikar again?
Transformation. So that transforming process from the water transforming into ice, that's called Vikar.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah.
And very soon, next week, then we'll start to be getting into how this relates to the Jiva, the conditioned soul here in the material world, and our own position in relation to Nisarga, to Vikar. Very soon, next week, we'll start to get into this topic. Does anyone else have any questions, doubts, something like they'd like to add, corrections, if I got anything wrong?
No, you did great. I just wanted to add sort of perhaps just something that was important before Paramahamsa Babaji began answering the questions of the Sannyassi. He only asked the question when he was asked by the Sannyas Maharaj in a humble mood. So when we approach the spiritual master, or when we approach someone, though, that transcendental knowledge will only come to us if we approach in a humble mood. And he also had a really burning desire to know. So that was quite an important part of his qualification, to be able to hear that transcendental knowledge. That was my little thing that I noticed.
Yeah, thank you very much for adding that. This is a very important point for the Guru-Sishya relationship. Pratipasha in a very submissive, humble mood, approach the Guru, and not in a lackadaisical way that you're not really that interested, really have this burning desire to want to know, then we can be a fit recipient.
Previously, sorry.
Carry on.
Previously, he'd seen the was it the Vaishnava dancing and chanting and in complete ecstasy, and he was really attracted, but he was still really conscious of his status as a sannyas in his particular line, and so he wasn't able to make that next step, and that really, yeah, that really impressed upon me your attachments and your status, and you're just identifying with that particular state that you're in at the moment, the distorted state that prevents you from being able to take that next step to ask submissively. But he got there just by approaching the spiritual master, and from that, what's the word I'm looking for association, from that association, and just from that moment, and hearing the Shabda Brahma, the transcendental sound, he was able to, that grace came to him.
Yeah, it's actually so instructive, this pastime of the sannyasi. He was completely conquered his mind and his senses. Like, who can say that they are at that level? So he was completely disidentified from the body. And this is a very, very elevated position. He was also a great scholar in his own right. But even though he was at that level, he still felt some dissatisfaction in the heart. So here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's cutting in a very poetic way this whole Mayavad conception that I will become one with God, that I will just merge, that from this, people think they will get the ultimate fulfillment. But actually, Sannyasi Thakur, he is showing to us, he had reached that level, but he wasn't feeling satisfaction in the heart, just like the four Kumaras. And then when they were touched just by the fragrance of bhakti in just a small way, then, from that, in Sannyasi Thakur's case, from that Shabda Brahma, then he could realize, there's much, much more. And Sannyasi Thakur, after that, then he decided, so with great humility, he acknowledged to himself, this path wasn't doing it for me. I want to take shelter of the Vaishnavas. And then he went to Vrindavan Dham and gradually made his way to Godrun Dweep. So with humility, even though he was in a great learned position and respected, still he was honest with himself. Actually, I'm not truly satisfied by what I'm doing. There's more. And he pursued that. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in a very poetic way, so much Siddhanta is actually just in this pastime, like this is the Vedic way of delivering a text. Everything should be in the beginning and in the conclusion. So in the beginning, all of everything of Jaiva Dharma is there in a very poetic way. Did anyone else like to add anything?
I just want to ask for technical things. Everyone could listen very well how you were speaking today. No problem with listening, so good. And also, in my case, I found that these Sanskrit words were very important. I really like to have the option to read it. Do you want that next time or after I can share, like we write it on the...
Next time we'll start using the whiteboard and the classes.
Yeah,
and we'll go through go through these terms again to recap next week.
Charts and diagrams. There are so many different characters. It gets really confusing for people when they're not used to those names too, I think.
So it's not that we'll be able to keep up with every name, but there is certain points or terms that are very important, like the for today. So sometimes the names and the characters, we'll just have to let them wash through us. But on very profound points, we will try to make some effort to really create deep impressions for these.
And also maybe, I don't know, if people are doing their own reading through in their own time, if you have some questions, you can message us anytime throughout the week, and we'll do our best to try and answer you.
Okay, so we'll conclude with a short kirtan.
Can I just quickly ask something? Just quickly.
Yes.
Did you get up to page 8? Did you say it was page 8?
I think it was page 9.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. 2 thirds down, page 9.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Mm.
That's different in my edition, but that's okay.
Maybe depend of the version.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe we should write every time like what is the last sentence. Like this, everyone can find it.
We got up to the point where Sannyassi Thakur is asking Prem Das Babaji Maharaj, what is it that is called Vastu? And what is the meaning of Swabhav? That's where we got up to. So we'll continue that from next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you very much, Venu Prabhu. Yeah. Very
I want to say thank
Three
you.
of you.
Thank you.
Mute if you want to read the kirtan.
All right. So we'll do a little kirtan now.
5 minutes.
Just 5 minutes.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna
Krishna
Hare Hare
Hare Rama Rama Rama
Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare. Jaya Jaya Shama Sundara Shama Sundara Jaya Rama Shama Sundara Shama Sundara Jaya Satchidananda Jaya Gaurari Satchidananda Jaya Gaurari Jaya Satchidananda Jaya Gaurari Satchidananda Jaya Gaurari. Guru Dev, Guru Dev, Guru Dev, Jaya Guru Dev, Jaya Jaya Guru Dev, Guru Dev, Guru Dev, Jaya Guru Dev, Jaya Jaya Parampara, Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo.
Srila Gurudeva ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Srila Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bo.